champion of the world. I think we're on chapter 15, Keeper. We sat on the grassy bank below the hedge, waiting for the darkness to fall. The sun had now set and the sky was as pale smoke, blue, faintly glazed with yellow. In the wood behind us and the shadows, the spaces in between the trees were turning from grey to black. You could offer me anywhere in the world at this moment, my father said, and I wouldn't go. His whole face was glowing with happiness. We did it, Danny, he said, laying a hand gently on my knee. We pulled it off. Doesn't that make you feel good? Terrific, I said. It was a bit scary while it lasted. But that's what poaching's all about, he said. It scares the pants off us. That's why we love it. Look, there's a hawk. I looked where he was pointing and saw a kestrel hawk hovering superbly in the darkening sky above the ploughed field across the track. It's his last chance for supper tonight, my father said. He'll be lucky if he sees anything now. Except for the swift fluttering of its wings, the hawk remained absolutely motionless in the sky. It seemed to be suspended by some invisible thread like a toy bird hanging from the ceiling. Then suddenly, it folded its wings and plummeted to earth at incredible speed. This was a sight that always thrilled me. What do you think he saw, Dad? Rabbit perhaps, my father said, or a vole or a field mouse. None of them has a chance when there's a kestrel overhead. We waited to see if the hawk would fly up again. He didn't, which meant he had caught his prey and was eating it on the ground. How long does a sleeping pill take to work? I asked. I don't know the answer to that one, my father said. I imagine it's about half an hour. It might be different with pheasants though, Dad. It might be, he said. We've got to wait a while anyway to give the keepers time to go home. They'll be off as soon as it gets dark. I've brought an apple for each of us, he added, fishing into one of his pockets. A Cox's orange pippin, he said. I said, smiling, thank you very much. We sat down munching away. One of the nice things about a Cox's orange pippin, my father said, is that the pips rattle when it's ripe. Shake it and you can hear them rattling. I shook my half-eaten apple. The pips rattled. Look out, he whispered sharply, there's someone coming. A man had appeared suddenly and slightly out of the dusk and was quite close before my father saw him. It's another keeper, he whispered. Just sit tight and don't say a word. We both watched the keeper as he came down the track towards us. He had a shotgun in his arm and there was a black Labrador walking at his heel. He stopped when he was a few paces away, and the dog stopped with him and stayed behind him, watching us through the keeper's legs. Good evening, my father said, nice and friendly. This one was a tall, bony man with a hard eye and a hard cheek. Hard, dangerous hands. I know you, he said, coming closer. I know both of you. My father didn't answer this. You're from the filling station, right? His lips were thin and dry with some sort of brownish crust over them. You're from the filling station, that's your boy, and you live in that filthy old caravan, right? What are we playing? My father said 20 questions. The keeper spat out a big gob of spit and I saw it go sailing through the air and land with a pop on a patch of dry dust 6 inches from my father's plaster's foot. It looked like a little baby oyster lying there. Beat it, the man said. Go on, get out. When he spoke, his upper lip lifted above the gum and I could see a row of small discolored teeth. One of them was black, the others were brownish yellow, like seeds of a pomegranate. This happens to be a public footpath, my father said. Kindly do not molest us. The keeper shifted the gun from his left arm to his right. You're loitering, he said, with intent to commit a nuisance. I could run you in for that. No, you couldn't, my father said. All this made me rather nervous. I see you broke your foot, the keeper said. You didn't by chance fall into a hole in the ground, did you? It's been a nice walk, Danny, my father said, putting a hand on my knee, but it's time we went home for our supper. He stood up, and so did I. We wandered off down the track the way we'd come, leaving the keeper standing there, and soon he was out of sight in the half-darkness behind us. That's the head keeper, my father said. His name is Rabbits. Do we have to go home, Dad? Home, my father cried. My dear boy, we're just beginning. Come in here. There was a gate on the right leading into a field. We climbed over it and sat down behind the hedge. Mr. Rabbits is always due for his supper. My father said, you mustn't worry about him. We sat quietly behind the hedge, waiting for the keeper to walk past us on his way home. A few stars were showing, and a bright three-quarter moon was coming up over the hills behind us in the east. We have to be careful of that dog, my father said. When they come by, hold your breath and don't move a muscle. Won't the dog smell us out anyway? I asked. No, my father said. There's no wind to carry the scent. Look out, here they come, don't move. The keeper came loping softly down the track with the dog padding behind. Quick, soft-footed at his heel. I took a deep breath and held it as they went by. When they were some distance away, my father stood up and said, "It's all clear, he won't be coming back tonight." "Are you sure?" "I'm positive, Danny." "What about the other one, the one in the clearing?" "He'll be gone too." "Mightn't one of them be waiting for us at the bottom of the track?" I asked, "by the gap in the hedge?" "There wouldn't be any point in him doing that." My father said, "There are at least 20 different ways of reaching the road when you come out of Hazel's Wood. Mr. Rabbit knows that." We stayed behind the hedge for a few more minutes just to be on the safe side. "Isn't it a marvellous thought, though, Danny?" My father said, "There's about 200 pheasants at this very moment roosting up in those trees. Already they're getting feel groggy. Soon they'll be falling out of the branches like raindrops." The three-quarter moon was well above the hills now, and the sky was filled with stars as we climbed back over the gate and began walking up the track towards the wood. Chapter 16, The Champion of the World. It was not as dark as I was expected it to be inside the wood this time. Little glints and glimmers from the brilliant moon outside shone through the leaves and gave the place a cold, eerie look. "I brought a light for each of us," my father said. "I'm going to need it later on." He handed me one of those small pocket torches shaped like a fountain pen. I switched mine on. It threw a long, narrow beam of surprising brightness, and when I moved it around, it was like waving a very long wand around the trees. I switched it off. We started walking back towards the clearing where the pheasants had eaten the raisins. "This," my father said, "will be the first time in the history of the world that anyone has even tried roosting pheasants. Isn't it marvellous, though, to be able to walk around them without worrying about keepers?" "You don't think Mr. Rabbit might have sneaked back again just to make sure?" "Never," my father said. "He's gone home to supper." I couldn't help thinking that if I'd been Mr. Rabbit's, and if I'd seen two suspicious-looking characters lurking just outside my precious pheasant's wood, I certainly would not have gone home for my supper. My father must have sensed my fear, because once again he reached out and took my hand in his, folding his long, warm fingers around mine. Hand in hand, we threaded our way through the trees towards the clearing. In a few minutes, we were there. "Here's where we threw the raisins," my father said. I peered through the bushes. The clearing lay pale and milky in the moonlight. "What do we do next?" I asked. "We stay here and wait," my father said. I could just make out his face under the peak of his cap, the lips pale, the cheeks flushed, and the eyes shining bright. "Are they all roosting, Dad?" "Yes, they're all around us. They don't go far." "Could I see them if I shone the light up into the branches?" "No," he said. "They go up pretty high, and they hide among the leaves." We stood waiting for something to happen. Nothing happened. It was very quiet in the wood. "Danny," my father said. "Yes, Dad?" "I've been wondering how a bird manages to keep its balance sitting on a branch when it's asleep." "I don't know," I said. "Why?" "It's very peculiar," he said. "What's peculiar?" "It's peculiar that a bird doesn't topple off its perch as soon as it goes to sleep. After all, if we were sitting on a branch and we went to sleep, we'd fall off at once, wouldn't we?" "Birds have claws and long toes, Dad. I expect they hold on with those." "I know that, Danny, but I still don't understand why those toes keep gripping the perch once the bird's asleep. Surely everything goes limp when you fall asleep." I waited for him to go on. "I was just thinking," he said, "that if a bird can keep its balance when it's asleep, then surely there isn't any reason why the pills should make it fall down." "It's doped," I said. "Surely it will fall down if it's doped." "But isn't that simply a deeper sort of sleep?" he said. "Why should we expect it to fall down just because it's in a deeper sleep?" There was a gloomy silence. "I should have tested it with roosters," my father added. Suddenly the blood seemed to have drained right out of his cheeks. His face was so pale I thought it might be going to faint. "My dad would have tested it with roosters before he did anything else," he said. At that moment there came a soft thump from behind us. "What was that?" I asked. "Shh!" He stood listening. "Thump!" "There's another one," I said. There was a deep muffled sound as though a bag of sand had been dropped to the ground. "Thump! They're pheasants!" I cried. "Wait! There must be pheasants, Dad. Thump, thump!" "You might be right, Danny." We switched on our torches and ran towards the sand. "Where are they?" my father said. "Over here, Dad. 2 of them were over there." I thought they were this way. "Keep looking. They can't be far." We searched for about a minute. "Here's one," my father called. When I got to him, he was holding a magnificent cockbird in both hands. We examined it closely with our torches. "It's doped to high heaven," my father said. "It won't wake up for a week." "Thump! There's another, I cried. Thump, thump. 2 more, my father yelled. Thump, 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 thump. Jeepers, my father said. Thump, 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 thump. All around us, the pheasants were starting to rain down out of the trees. We began rushing around madly in the dark, sweeping the ground with our torches. Thump, thump, thump. This lot fell almost on top of me. I was right under the tree as they came down. I found all 3 of them immediately, 2 cocks and a hen. They were limp and warm, the feathers wonderfully soft in my hand. Where should I put them, Dad? I called out. Lay them here, Danny. Just pile them up here where it's light. My father was standing on the edge of the clearing with the moonlight streaming down all over him and a great bunch of pheasants in each hand. His face was bright, his eyes big and bright and wonderful, and he was staring around him like a child who had just discovered the whole world is made of chocolate. Thump, thump, thump. It's too many, I said. It's beautiful, he cried. He dumped the birds he saw was carrying off and took to look for more. Thump, 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 thump. It was easy to find them now. There was 1 or 2 lying under every tree. Quickly collected 6 more, 3 in each hand, and ran back and dumped them with the others. Then 6 more, then 6 more, and then 6 more after that. And still they kept falling. My father was in a whirl of excitement now, dashing around like a mad ghost under the trees. I could see the beam of his torch waving around in the dark, and every time he found a bird, he gave a little yelp of triumph. Thump, thump, thump. Hey, Danny, he shouted. Yes, I'm over here. What is it, Dad? What do you think the great Mr. Victor Hazel would say about it if you could see this? Don't talk about it, I said. For 3 or 4 minutes, the pheasants kept on falling. Then suddenly they stopped. Keep searching, my father shouted. There's plenty more on the ground. Dad, I said, don't you think we ought to get out of here while the going's good? Never, he shouted. Not on your life. We went on searching. Between us, we looked at every tree within 100 yards of the clearing, north, south, east, and west, and I think we found most of them in the end. At the collecting point, there was a pile of pheasants as big as a bonfire. It's a miracle, my father was saying. It's an absolute miracle. He was staring at them in a kind of trance. Shouldn't we just take about 6 each and get out quick? I said, I'd like to count them, Danny. Dad, not now. I must count them. Can't we do that later? 1, 2, 3, 4. He began counting them very carefully, picking up each bird in turn and lying it carefully to one side. The moon was directly overhead now, and the whole clearing was brilliantly lit up. I felt as though I was standing in the glare of powerful headlamps. 117, 118, 119, 120, he cried. It's an all-time record. He looked happier than I'd ever seen him in his life. The most my dad ever got was 15, and he was drunk for a week afterwards. He said, but this time, my dear boy, is an all-time world record. I expect it is, I said. And you did it, Danny. The whole thing was your idea in the first place. I didn't do it, Dad. Oh, yes, you did. And you know what that makes you, my dear boy? It makes you the champion of the world. He pulled his sweater and unwound the 2 big cotton sacks around his belly. Here's yours, he said, handing one to me. Fill it up quick. The light of the moon was so strong I could read the print across the front of the sack. J.E.P. Grupp, it said. Keston Flour Mills, London, SW17. You don't think that keeper with brown teeth is watching us at this very moment from behind a tree? I said. No chance, my father said. If he's anywhere, he'll be down the filling station waiting to catch us coming home with the loot. He started loading the pheasants into the sacks. They were soft and floppy-necked, and the skin underneath the feathers was still warm. We can't possibly carry this lot all the way home, I said. Of course not. There'll be a taxi waiting for us outside the track. Go on the wood. A taxi, I said. My dad always made use of a taxi on a big job, he said. Why a taxi, for heaven's sakes? It's more secret, Danny. Nobody knows inside a taxi except the driver. Which driver, I asked. Charlie Ginch. He's only too glad to oblige. Does he know about poaching too? Oh, Charlie Ginch, of course he does. He's poached more pheasants in his time than we've sold gallons of petrol. We finished loading the sacks, and my father humped his on his shoulders. I couldn't do that with mine. It was far too heavy. Drag it, my father said. Just drag it around the ground. My sack had 60 birds inside, and it weighed a ton, but it slid quite easily over dry leaves, with me walking backwards and pulling it with both hands. We came to the edge of the wood and peered through the hedge into the track. My father said, Charlie boy, very softly, and the old man behind the wheel of the taxi poked his head out into the moonlight and gave us a sly, toothless grin. We slid through the hedge, dragging the sacks after us along the ground. Hello, 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 Charlie Grin said. What's all this then? That's it for today. Good episode. Chapter, even.